Jenny, do you want to? We will be recording, so if for some reason you do hop off and you're not able to stay on, you can watch it later. This session, welcome to our Wise Wisconsin series for 2024. Our first session is called The Power of Awe, finding awe in the ordinary. And some of you have already realized or mentioned that this is based or initially off of a book by Dr. Keltner called The Power of Awe. So if you have read the book, you will see a lot of similarities, and I will refer to it quite a bit as we make our way throughout today. My name is Jackie Caratini. I am a human development and relationships educator with UW-Madison Division of Extension. I am located in Wood County, which is the center of the state. We actually are the geographic center of the state of Wisconsin. So welcome to everybody. I know we have participants from all over our glorious state. So thank you for taking the time to be with us today. I have my wonderful colleague, Jenny Abel. Miss Jenny, you want to wave? Woohoo! Jenny is going to be monitoring the chat with me today. So if you do have a comment, a question, if you have a technical issue, please, you can instant or private message Jenny on the chat, and she will be taking care of that for us. I will be pausing several times throughout for questions. If not, if you want to just grab yourself a pen and a paper and jot them down so you don't forget them, I'll give us enough time at the end to do questions. We will also be pausing at the end for an evaluation. So we will be posting a link. It'll just take you a few minutes. So I do ask you to please stay on till the very end so that we can have you fill out that evaluation. And again, I'll finish a little early so that we will have time for that. Like I said, this is the first in our series. We will be holding these every Wednesday, all at 9 a.m. So I hope you are willing to join us for the remainder of the series as well. Again, I encourage you, just a little bit of housekeeping, to keep yourself muted throughout. If you do have a comment or a question, like I said, you can utilize the chat. You can raise your hand. Ned did a great job of showing us that. And we will pause and we'll go from there. But otherwise, try to keep yourself muted as we make our way through. There is closed captioning, so we will have that. Do we have that turned on, Jenny? I'm just looking.
I will take care of that just a minute.
Okay, awesome. So that you'll be able to see it. And like I said, we are recording, so we will send out the video afterward, the recording of this series afterward, so you'll be able to go back to that. You should have received this morning just a PDF of the PowerPoint. So, and I will also, with that, when it sends out, if you want any additional resources or citings to the book or the research, we will get you that as well. So, any comments or questions before we start? Okay, awesome. So just to start, where did this come from? So someone already mentioned the book. So exactly a year ago, I was sitting in the library waiting for participants to come for a class. They didn't show up, but I waited for about a half an hour, as sometimes happens in our work. And as I did, I like to flip through some journals that are there. So it's kind of a fun time. Nobody wants to be stood up, but it's a good time to be able to catch up on some extra things. And I came across an article called The Power of Awe. And it was to, again, introduce the book that was being released by Dr. Keltner. And immediately I was like, oh, because I personally have felt a connection to awe for quite some time, and really do make it a point in my day, at least for the last 4 years, to really look for awe each and every day. And those of you who know me or if you heard me present during COVID, you probably are like, oh yeah, that's right, she does. She talks about it all the time. I do. Things like I really try to pay attention and I look for it on my way in. This morning, three eagles, folks. I saw three eagles. Super awesome. And I saw one really up close digging into the mud as the ice is melting, which is crazy, near where I live. So, yeah, I absolutely believe in the power of awe. So I was drawn into this. So I did start. So, like I said, there is a book called The Power of Awe by Decker Keltner. And then it really becomes a black hole. So I'll talk about in just a sec that this research itself is fairly new in the science of happiness. It's one of the newer cogs of that, but awe has been around for thousands of years. And there's many, many, many examples of that. So with that, let's roll. Hopefully technology works awesome. So why are we actually talking about awe? The research suggests that experiencing the emotion of awe can make us both happier and healthier, both physically and mentally. Awe's been around, like I said, for thousands of years, actually just, millennia. Darwin describes the components of awe in his work. He never actually uses the word awe, but he does describe, as we're going to talk about today, what does awe look like. Artists and composers have described experiences that shook them to their core. But again, that research on awe is actually fairly new, and the scientific studies, compared to the other emotions and the science of happiness, have only been around in the last several decades. So it is new. Why, might you say, is this? If it's been around for thousands of years, are we first getting to that science and the impact of it? And the reason is, it's if you really try to think about it, it's hard for us to even imagine how to recreate awe in a lab, right? So think about science and where do we get that data? And so, from both aspects of being able to quantify the physical and the mental responses to it. So again, Decker Keltner, along with a team of researchers from around the country and around the world, have finally been able to do just that. They've been able to quantify it. So one study that I'll be talking about quite a bit, his team went into 26, I'm going to say that again, 26 countries around the world, and started by asking just a very simple question. What does awe mean to you? Have you ever experienced awe? And they started with these stories. And they got stories again, all ages, from many different generations, all different languages, all different experiences, all around the world. And they were then able to categorize them. And we'll talk about that in a second. And once they were able to do that, they actually had a mathematician that was able to quantify it and then start looking at some of the physical and actual responses that we have from experiencing awe. So for starters, what is awe? So if I said to you, what is awe? Anyone want to give me a one-word response that comes to mind when I say, what is awe?
Indescribable.
Ooh, good one. Indescribable. Yep. What else?
Breathless.
Ooh, breathless. That's a great one.
In the chat, we've got sunrises, breathtaking.
Wonder.
Ooh, wonder. Yep. We'll talk about wonder quite a bit because sometimes they're used simultaneously. They are slightly different, but a lot of times they're described together, right? Wonder and awe.
Jackie, some more in the chat, disbelief and a wonderful experience.
So that I like that last one, a wonderful experience. We are going to talk about in the history of awe that actually when the word was first created, it comes from the English word, and it actually was awful because at that time it was the time of plague and the time of religious war and things that were happening. So Awe can be both positive and negative. When it first came out, it was more around some of the fear and things, again, unimaginable, same words, but not necessarily positive. Awesome. So let's start with defining what do we mean by awe. So as I've said, Dr. Keltner has charted the new science of awe, and it shows how awe can actually transform ourselves. It renders us small and often humble, right? The vastness of it makes us feel very small, and it humbles ourselves. So he defines awe as a feeling of being in the presence of something vast that transcends your current understanding of the world itself. That vastness can be physical, such as standing next to the world's tallest tree, or hearing music fill an entire arena. It can be a smell that sends you back to your childhood. Awe is about the vast mysteries of life. That vastness can sometimes be unsettling and actually cause fear or scare us. Awe helps us understand and grasp, again, that vastness and fill the void sometimes that we often feel if we do feel alone in the world. It can be high altitude mountains, it could be never ending deserts or plains, it could be the smell or the first time that you hold a new infant. And for that infant, it's the warmth of their parents' touch or the fact that they actually can hear and recognize their parents' sound when they first are born. It can be the violence that humans are capable of. So many, many things in many different connotations that awe can take different forms. Centuries ago, like I said, when the word was actually created from that English version, it was in a time of plague and war and death. So it can be both positive or negative. Another researcher defines awe as the emotion we experience when we encounter vast mysteries that we don't understand. It's often fleeting, elusive, and it moves us towards mystery. Being amazed by things outside of ourselves that we can hardly just even grasp comprehension on. Awe helps us grow when facing challenges and uncertainties in our lives. Awe reveals big insights to us. And think about, how much health and well-being we gain by being amazed by something that is totally outside of ourselves and outside of our control. Often moves us to deepen our relations to the vast mysteries of life. And it's guided by the most human of basic human need and emotions. Another definition, another researcher says, awe opens our minds to the truth that we as individuals are part of something larger than ourselves. Experiences of awe activate, we have a physical response. So it actually can activate that vagus nerve, which goes from the top of your spinal cord into your throat, down into your heart and your lungs, and then actually down into your digestive organs. Awe slows your heart rate. It orients your attention towards others, and it prompts you to explore and engage within the world around you. It often also affects the lacrimal gland, which is your tear duct, and it makes our eyes well up with tears. And studies have found that when that does happen and we have those physical responses, it also is connected to that sense of shared identity with others around us and others in the world. And I'll ask you this in a second, but awe is also another physical reaction often associated with that kind of tingling sensation on the back of your neck, making your hair stand up, or you get tingling down your arms. So you do get that physical response to that emotion of awe. So another researcher, Rachel Carson, states that children often find wonder and awe naturally, right? It just comes to them. They have this just innate need to be looking for it. So if I ask you to think about awe, one of the things that folks often say is, I think about a toddler who is just amazed by everything. They can see something new and, oh, everything is amazing and cool. And so Carson says, we need to keep that as we age and we go throughout life. We have this need to continue to search for awe as we go through our different decades. That is what actually makes us strong, and awe gives us sources of strength. So, one of the common definitions um, of mindfulness, we often talk about mindfulness, is paying attention on purpose, in the moment, non judgmentally. And I like to add using your five senses, right? So, what do you see? What do you hear? What do you taste? What do you feel? What do you smell? But here's the difference mindfulness comes from within you. You are making a conscious effort to be present and focus in that moment. So awe is similar to that, except awe comes from the outside. Often people say awe just, it hits them. It's like, oh, even if you know it's coming, it still takes your breath away. It still gives you like that slap in the face, like, holy smokes, right? It shocks us. So have you ever heard the phrase awe, shock, and awe, right? Because they do come together. So that's the difference. So mindfulness is very similar, but yet mindfulness comes from our own intention, whereas awe comes from the outside and often again gives us that sense of shock. And again, there's a powerful hit with it. So again, Rachel Carson says, awe shatters your expectations. It stops you in your tracks. It evokes mindfulness from the outside. So let's think of this. How many of you, you don't have to unmute yourselves, but just kind of raise of hands. How many of you have been to the Grand Canyon or Niagara Falls? Something just absolute, yep, lots of hands. So if I asked you to think about like one word that describes that, what would you say?
We've got a couple people who raised their hands. Somebody
Yep,
labeled iPad.
it's okay.
And
Anyone want to give me a word that describes your first thought when you saw, again, the Grand Canyon or Niagara Falls?
yeah, folks with hands raised, go ahead.
Overwhelming.
Ooh, overwhelming, good one. What else?
Breathtaking. We saw the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, breathtaking. Anyone feel small? Yeah, I see heads nodding. So here's the thing with both of those. As I just talked about, sometimes, like we said, this idea of this shock and awe that goes together. You knew before you went that it was going to be special, right? You knew it was going to be beautiful. But did that take away from your reaction? It still took your breath away, right? So how many of you, it's this idea of even with things, it doesn't have to be something that is surprising to us because we still get that awe feeling. So even if we know that going to see the Grand Canyon is going to be beautiful, we still have that same response and that same reaction. Some people say the same thing about childbirth. I don't know how many of you have experienced childbirth, but you know it's coming. You know it's going to be this amazing experience or something very unique, but it still takes your breath away, right? It still puts you into this experience of awe. Or how about a meteor shower? You know it's coming. So I'll give you several examples in my life of when I experienced awe to the point that it shook me down to my core. And one of them was a meteor shower. It was back in the early, mid to 90s, and I had just moved back to Wisconsin. I had been living on the East Coast. I was married, but I didn't have children yet, and I had lived in town. And I had two nieces at the time that were teenagers. And I said, grab your stuff, come on over. We're going to camp out in the driveway and we're going to watch this meteor shower. And if any of you had teenage girls, you'll know the response I got was rolled eyes and like, oh, are you kidding me? And so, oh, it's cold and I don't want to do this. And, lots of grumbling as we laid our blankets and our sleeping bags out on the ground. And up until that point, I think I had seen a few meteors in my life, but nothing had prepared me for this. So we lay those blankets down on the driveway. Again, we're in town, so I'm a little leery about what we're going to be able to see. And I don't know if any of you recall this, it was 1999. But over the next couple of hours, we counted 486 shooting stars. I'm going to say that again, 486 shooting stars. And we probably could have gone on, but the girls were starting to fall asleep. It was, there are no words for me to even describe it. It was from one side to the other side of the horizon, and everywhere we looked, you didn't even know where to focus your eyes. Fast forward to today, those two teenagers are now, one is early 40s and one is in her mid 30s. They both have teenagers of their own. And every time they say there's going to be a meteor shower, we all light up. And nothing has ever been able to top that experience. It was a once in a lifetime thing. I knew it was coming, but again, my mind had no way even to grasp what I actually saw or what I experienced or how it shook us to our core or how 30 years later we still get that same reaction. So as I'm telling you this, I literally have goosebumps because I'm getting that same physical reaction as I did. And we'll talk about that in just a second. So awe has that power to do that. It has the power to move us in ways that we can't even fathom. So I'd like you to just do that. If you're able to, let's think about an experience of awe. So I'll have you kind of sit back in your chair, shoulders back, head up. If you're able to, I'd like you to close your eyes. If you can't close your eyes, just let your gaze fall down gently onto your lap. Move your head a little bit. Let's just kind of relax. Wiggle your fingers. And I'd like you to think about the last time that you felt awe. Was it nature? Was it music? Was it an amazing painting or a breathtaking mural? As you recall this experience, can you see it? Can you hear it? Do you smell it? Can you feel it? Are you right there in that moment? So I'm going to let you sit in this for just a few seconds. Let your endorphins run wild through your body. And when you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes. And as we close this experience, we're going to take one big deep breath in. I'm going to count to 3. And as you exhale, I'd like you to say, wow. Okay, ready? Deep breath in. 1, 2, 3. Wow. How was that experience? Did you get goosebumps? Did you get shivers down your spine? Anyone want to just explain how that made you feel? Were you able to go back into that moment? Could you see it, smell it, hear it, taste it? Anyone want to give an example of what they imagined for their awe and what their actual physical feeling was right today, right now?
Jackie, while people are, oh,
Yep.
Larissa, go ahead. Go ahead, Larissa.
Oh, I was just going to say, my eldest child was in a musical and was one of the leads. And I went back to that moment of awe of both what my child was able to do, as well as all of the other kids on stage and the music and the smells, and I got all teary. It was just an awesome memory.
Thank you so much. There's so many things in what you said, and we'll unpack those as we kind of make our way through today. But you talk about the collective experience. So that's one of the things out of the research that Dacker and team did around the world, is that there is this collective piece that sometimes awe strengthens when we are in a large group and everyone is experiencing it together. And I love that you gave that example, because awe is not always nature. A lot of times we think it's nature. When I was thinking about all of my different experiences, one that came to mind was similar. It was my child as well, but it was when she performed at state track last year, and it was 98 degrees, and you're sitting in a crowd of 10,000, and it still takes my breath away to this day. So yes, but recall is so important, you guys, and so we'll talk about this towards the end today of how we can utilize awe. But so I hope you were able to get that same physical chemical reaction as you did when you experienced it the first time. Our brains are so powerful that you actually get the same endorphins, the same chemical reaction release in your brain in recall as you did when you experience it. So sometimes if you're not able to go out and take in awe, sometimes recall is just a powerful way to still get that same benefit. So thank you for taking that few minutes to do that example with me. But let's keep rolling. So what are some of the benefits to awe now that we talked about what it is? One of, again, the researcher says experiencing everyday awe and wonder can help us see that we're a part of something bigger in the world. And then science has shown, like I said, it's newer on the list of emotions, and the science of happiness has just started looking at awe in the last 20 years. So in the last few decades, it's been around for thousands and thousands of years. And there are many, many examples of that. And especially if you look in art and history, whether you're talking about poetry or, the Sistine Chapel, right? Many people describe looking at the ceiling, and experiencing awe, and it chilled them to their core every time they saw it. So it's been around for thousands and thousands of years. Darwin talks about experiencing awe as he was developing, but not necessarily, like I said, it's newer when we come to the science of it. But some of the things that it's actually shown is that it can, we'll talk about this a little bit later, it can quiet those voices in your head. It can actually bring us, this is where it's similar to mindfulness, bring us into the present moment so that we can be present here and now and take us out of those thoughts. It also can reduce stress and loneliness, both physical stress and mental. And it also gives us this idea and the sense of time. It draws it out, but then it also puts things into perspective where you are in the world, and then your connection to those around you, to things around you. I don't know about you guys, but especially when times of stress, sometimes we have this idea of feeling it's just me, right? I'm the only one experiencing this. I'm the only one that's having these problems, right? Oh, why me? But awe gives us this realization that we are so part of something larger, and we have this ability, and it shrinks us and it humbles us and it builds those connections to the world around us, and it takes us out of that, oh, I like to call it the Eeyore, woe is me, the world is, doom and gloom. And it pulls us into that. There are amazing, wonderful things all around us all the time, you guys, all the time. Other benefits that awe has, like I said, when we look at the mental side of it, it can decrease depression, anxiety, stress. It's been actually known to decrease the effects of PTSD, post-traumatic stress. And so it's been used in several different research studies around decreasing the chronic stress, chronic effects, again, of side effects of PTSD. One of the really cool things that is fairly recent in the last couple of years that they've discovered is that during times of high stress, our body holds on, it becomes tense, right? You could probably know this. When you're stressed, if I asked you to be in tune with your body, you might say, my shoulders or my neck is tense. I can feel, in my jaw, or I get a headache, or I can actually feel my hands clenched, right? And when our body does this, this leads to chronic inflammation. Our body holds on to this tenseness, and then our cells actually expand, and we have inflammation throughout our body. What they have now found is that by using the power of awe, it decreases that. We're letting that go. And so we can actually reduce those rates of chronic inflammation, which is amazing. That's something that is there all the time around us in so many capacities can have that long-term effect on our physical bodies. So we talked about what it decreases. On the opposite side, it actually can increase feelings, again, of connection to the world around us. Compassion. We're going to talk about this in a second, but as the ability to make us feel smaller, it also builds compassion for the world, experiences, people around us. It also has the ability to enhance our creativity, gives us strength in problem solving and critical thinking. Again, because it's taking us out of our heads and this idea of me and making us a part of something larger. Awe actually has the ability to slow your heart rate. It orients your attention towards others, and it prompts you to be able to explore and engage in the world around you. You actually physically feel smaller. One study, they actually were working with tourists at Yosemite, and they had the folks that were actually at Yosemite right there draw a picture of themselves, right? And sign their names. And then they went 30 miles down the road to another tourist attraction, but it was just a restaurant kind of on the side of the road, and they did the same thing. Draw yourselves again and sign your name. The folks that drew themselves at Yosemite drew themselves tiny, you guys. Almost 100% had smaller versions of themselves than when they were 30 miles down the road. They were bigger, right? So this idea of you actually physically feel smaller in the world when you're experiencing awe, and it makes you realize where you're at and that you're a part of something larger, greater than you can even fathom. Our brain doesn't even have the ability to wrap our head around it. Another component of that is they took it one step further and found that those same people were also more likely to help others. They acted kinder, they were nicer, and they found that when you feel small in the world, you're more willing to help those around you. It actually humbles us. We feel connected to that greater being, which is pretty cool. I don't know about you, but I think that's actually like super amazing. So in the book, The Power of Awe, Decker talks about this research study that I mentioned to you, that they went to 26 countries. And a part of his team was a mathematician, and they started categorizing, because you think, well, this isn't really math, right? But they started taking what people, they asked him, like I told you, the question was, what do you think of when you say awe, and what are your experiences with awe? And so they started collecting stories, and they collected thousands of stories from around the world, from around the globe. But they were able to categorize them into this, the 8 wonders of life, right? And so let's kind of make our way through what this might look like. So the first one is other people. So we can see awe in other people. It could be courage, it could be strength, just strength beyond our even what we fathom. You've probably heard stories of people that were in an accident and were all of a sudden able to lift a car off of a loved one. Where did that come from, right? That's not even physically possible that a human being was able to lift a car, but they have, and it has happened, right? Or kindness. One of the things that comes to mind when I was thinking about this particular one is a colleague, a former colleague of mine. His family has polycystic kidneys. And I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with polycystic kidneys, but it's directly, it's genetic, it's directly hereditary. And so this particular person, him and his two brothers and his father all had polycystic kidneys, and they all needed kidney transplants. And my friend, my colleague, he was the last one to receive his kidney transplant this past fall. And he had gone to the same, his whole family had gone to the same transplant center, to the same physician, had been helping all of them throughout the last 6 years as they all got kidneys. And so they had done this little video promotion of it. And the doctor, the surgeon, had said, he can't even fathom the fact that one person is willing to donate a part of themselves to give to someone else to continue life, but the fact that this particular family had been able to do it 4 times, you guys. 4 times. Someone else was willing to give a part of themselves for someone else. And it just it blew his mind. And that was his job. That's what he did every day. And as he was explaining this, he had a tear in his eye, the surgeon. And it's just this idea that we can see awe in other people and the things that they do. The second one is nature, and this might be more what you think of commonly when we think of awe. So this could be vast oceans, this can be mountains, this can be the night sky, or an amazing summer storm. One of my favorites is, a heat storm or heat lightning, and you can sit on the back porch and hear it rumbling, and see it light up the night sky. Amazing, right? Again, things that we cannot even fathom, but nature often is what we think of when we do think of the word awe. The third one is collective effervescence. And what we mean by this is being a part of something larger. In the book, Docker gives an example from one of the participants in the research that explains being a part of a concert. And being with 5,000 other people and singing and dancing, and how it literally transcended them into something that they had never experienced before. And so it's this idea of collectively being with other people, experiencing something at the same time, takes it to another level, again, and beyond what we could even imagine. So this can happen in large events where many people, thousands of people are gathered together, and you're all experiencing something at the same time. The next one is visual design, and this is things that naturally occur in nature. And so this could be geometric patterns. So this is like the scales on an alligator. This is the ripples in the sand when the ocean or the water retreats. These are things that, again, they're naturally there and they mesmerize us. And you find yourself looking at it and you can't stop looking at it because it just is, it's just amazing in itself. So the next one is music. And I know some of you, and I know some of you can give examples of how music itself, you've shared with me before, has transcended you. So this could be concerts, this could be your favorite singer, your favorite song. It could be a song from your childhood. It could be you singing as a part of a choir or participating in a band or in a symphony. I bet if I paused. We won't because of time. But I asked you, you probably could all come up with a way that music has literally transcended you to your core. I know myself, there are many versions of the song Ave Maria, and every time I hear it, doesn't make a difference who sings it. I literally, again, get a tear in my eye, I get goosebumps, and it literally feels, I can feel shaking with inside me, almost a quaking. So music definitely has that power to be able to generate awe. And in the book, he talks about that it's different for everybody, right? So it could be something that is spiritual, but it also could be heavy metal. It could be a piano, or again, a vocal concert. So it's lots of different things, and it might be for you different at different times. So there is no one way with any of these. That's the beauty of awe, is that it takes so many different forms. The next one is epiphany, or that big idea that all of a sudden things just make sense. Like, holy cow, I never thought of that, right? Science does this. A lot of times folks, when they all of a sudden study something and they realize like, oh, holy smokes, that pulls it all together. That absolutely makes it make sense. So sometimes when we get this just understanding, it is this sense of awe, like, wow, right? The next one is mystical experience. And this is, it could be religion, it could be faith, it could be spiritual beliefs. One of the interviews, again, in the book that Decker did, he talks with a minister, and she talks about, and she's a young woman, she's in her late 30s, and she was specifically talking during COVID about how I never heard this term, but I love this because it resonated with me. She said one of the things she's seeing in New York City in the last 5 years is something called religious homelessness. I'm going to say that again, religious homelessness. And for young adults, what this means is that they're not necessarily finding themselves attending church or belonging to a particular religion. But when they ask those same young adults in their 20s and their 30s if they had faith, 3/4 of them said yes. Faith was extremely important in their everyday life. So it's not necessarily about a religion, it's about believing in something beyond us, right? So it may be a specific religion for you, but it might be, again, and faith, the definition of faith itself is believing in something that we can't see, that we can't explain, which also is very similar to awe. Right? And then the last one is this idea of life and death. This can be births. I asked you how many of you, have experienced childbirth, whether it's yourself or of a grandchild or a great-grandchild. There is something just amazing. Again, it's coming. But it still takes your breath away. In the book, the reason Dacker talks about why one of the reasons he started this research and he went deep into this is he experienced the death of his brother to cancer. And in the very beginning of the book, he opens with this experience. And they talk about he had received a phone call and was told, went and gathered his mom and his wife and his children, and they went and they actually physically sat with his brother while he passed away. And he describes that his dad was holding his feet and that Dacker himself had his ear on his chest listening to his breath. His mom was at his face and his daughter was holding his shoulders, and how each one of them could physically feel the experience of death, and that it transcended anything he could have ever imagined. And he also talks about in the weeks and the months after this, what it meant, and how he continued to feel the awe of that experience. Deep trauma often also turns your mind to wonder. I told you in the beginning that the word awe itself, the origin of awe, was in times of plague and of war. And so sometimes even negative things, like a tornado. How many of you have experienced, a tornado where it took out an entire street? Like literally you could see the line for, we have in central Wisconsin, we've had storms the last couple summers, and you can actually track a line of, of the storms down in the ground for 20 miles, like, just extended periods of time. But then all of a sudden it skips one house on that street, right? Or one particular tree. How is it that it plows absolutely everything and then that one thing is left untouched, right? So this, even in sometimes the negative or when we see trauma, it turns our minds to wonder and amazement and to think about like, oh, how is that, right? So the cool thing about this particular study and how they collected this again around the world shows us just that ability that you can find awe anywhere. It doesn't require money. It doesn't require material things. They talk about that not one person in the thousands of experiences, no one talked about something they bought. Not one. No one talked about a material thing they own. Not a single person, right? It was not about things that we can purchase or material things. And so it really is this idea that we as humans, we have this basic need for awe. So just a few minutes a day seeking awe is enough to find it because it's all around us and it can lead you to that meaning-filled path of awe. So strength, courage, kindness to others, that collective movement like sports or dance, nature, music, art, visual designs that naturally occur around us, encountering life and death. And again, those big ideas or epiphanies, they are all around us if you look, if you pause, and if you just open your mind and let it be, it's there. So again, I'd like you to, imagine an experience that is within your reach, that does all of these things and has an impact that is literally awesome, like literally. And again, it's all around you and you have the ability to use it at any point in time. So how do you find awe in everyday life? One of the easiest ways is to get outside. No matter where you are, there it is, right? If you look with an open mind, and again, that goes back to that definition of mindfulness, of being present in the moment, non-judgmentally, and taking it all in with your five senses. And so a lot of times nature is the first one that we go to because if you allow yourself and clear the thoughts in your head, you do have that ability to take it in, and there is awe, no matter where you are, all around you. One approach to cultivating awe is taking an awe walk, a walk within a place of meaning and beauty, where your sole task is actually to encounter something that amazes you and transcends you. It could be big, like, we talked about the Grand Canyon, but it doesn't have to be. It could be something small, like hearing that bird chirp first thing in the morning, or thinking about, I don't know about you guys, but as we've had this strange winter of fake spring, I don't know what's happening, but I hear and see the birds, and to think about that bird or that migrated thousands of miles and comes back to the exact same spot every year, blow your mind, right? And when you're doing this awe walk, I want you again, use your five senses. What do you hear? What do you see? What do you feel? What do you taste? What do you smell? As small children, I bet if I asked you if you used this word, most of you did. We talked about exploring, right? We explored. I want you to tap into that. I want you to think about exploring the world every day. Be an explorer. Pull that back. give me just a show of hands. You don't have, how many of you can get stuck in your head, right? You might sit down and watch the news or watch TV at night, watch a movie with a bowl of popcorn, and all of a sudden the bowl of popcorn is gone, right? And you're like, holy smokes, how did I eat that? Or you hop in the car and you drive somewhere, and all of a sudden you pull in a parking lot and you're like, oh my gosh, how did I get here, right? We're in our head. We're thinking about the coulda, woulda, shoulda. We're thinking about what am I doing for dinner? Or, oh my gosh, I left that load of laundry in the dryer. We're thinking about all this other stuff and not necessarily being present in that moment. So our worries, our to-do lists, our expectations, they can consume us. They consume us. But the more that we actually look for awe and open our minds, to the possibilities that are out there in the world, the less that we're actually stuck in our heads, the less that we're going to ruminate about those thoughts. So I don't know about you, but that's just an amazing benefit for me. And one of the things that's one of the reasons I do practice awe for that exact reason.
Jackie, sorry, we've got someone raised their hand. So the person who's labeled iPad, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself. Or if you're not able to unmute yourself, you could type your question in the chat and we can share it with Jackie. Just want to make sure that we get your question answered.
You're good. And then we have just a couple slides left, and then we're going to pause. So we'll come back to that, and maybe you can pop it in the chat. Thanks, Jenny. So I encourage you to look for things that just make you say, wow, right? So I've shown lots of pictures of nature, so it can be nature. We are blessed in the state of Wisconsin, you guys. So a few of the pictures, Jenny asked me before, a few of the pictures were just generic ones that I took from around the world, but many of the pictures that I shared today were from just here in the state of Wisconsin. So some of you may recognize this picture. This is from Door County, and I have been to Door County every summer for most of my life. It still takes my breath away. I go every summer for 2 weeks to northern Wisconsin to the Chequamegon National Forest. Again, takes my breath. There's nothing there. It's not a fancy campground. There's no bells and whistles, but it literally takes my breath away. So I encourage you to look for those things around us that just make you go, wow, right? So to summarize, again, you don't need a trip to the Grand Canyon to feel awe. It's in your backyard. It's down the end of your street. It's in the sky, in the night sky, or the clouds, or the sunrises, or the sunsets. It's within our homes. It's within our families. Again, when you see that toddler or that baby go, and their eyes light up when they see something new, it's there, you guys. And again, this idea that awe is a basic state of mind. It's a primary form in our consciousness. Studies have shown that we can find it any day, any time, if you open your mind to it and you look for it. So look for it. Make it a part of your day. Make it a goal. So I want you, as often as possible, to go on an awe walk. Find the awe spots that speak to you. So I mentioned, I make it a purpose, a trip every year to go to Door County, to go to northern Wisconsin, to my favorite forest. I have spaces just around me. I know one of the things that speaks to me in the summer is kayaking, because just being a part of the water itself just transcends me and it blows me away. So look for those experiences to just be, to clear your mind, be present in the moment, and take in the awe of it. So how can awe actually transform us? It quiets our nagging, self-critical, overbearing, self-conscious voice of ourself, our ego. It empowers us to collaborate with others. It opens our minds to the wonders of the world, and it also deepens the patterns of our lives. Awe itself brings us joy, meaning, and community to those around us, along with healthier bodies and, again, more creative minds. So I'm going to pause there. I'm going to unshare, hopefully. Okay. So comments, questions? Does anyone feel refreshed just by thinking about experiences of awe? I did see a lot of head nodding. I saw a lot of smiles.
One thing that made me think about an awe moment was this last Memorial weekend. We live up in Rhinelander and we're on the river, and we have a family gathering, and the dragonflies were hatching. So we had grandchildren and nieces and nephews that were able to watch that, which is really something to see if you've not ever witnessed that.
Oh my gosh, yes, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, so you say
Absolutely.
that, and then I think fireflies is amazing. I also think every spring we live a couple miles down the road from the Mead Wildlife Refuge, excuse me, and thousands of geese come with their families. And so just to see those, again, baby geese and how they all stick together in these families, and there's hundreds of them, again, just mind-boggling. Other examples, Patty says, yes, holding a newborn baby is just amazing, right? And Patty, when you do that, when you imagine that or you recall back to it, you can smell it, right? The smell of the newborn, the feel. It is this unique smell and feel and emotion that evokes us and comes through us. Absolutely. So again, when you're experiencing awe, I want you to use those five senses, because when you do recall later, and when we talk about savoring, when we talk about talking about it with others, journaling about it, you're able to extend that benefit and that value. And again, your mind literally releases those same endorphins and those same happy hormones as when you experienced it the first time. It's powerful, super, super powerful. Yeah, so Vicky says she just ordered the book. So Jenny, just because we have a few minutes left, I'm going to stay on and we'll keep taking comments and examples. But I'm going to have Jenny put in the evaluation. And Jenny, if you want to go ahead and stop recording, you can do that.
Oh.
I will also pop in the chats